Well, good afternoon, you all, and thank you to Dr. Mavenia for the invitation. I'm sorry I'm forcing you to a very narrow window I have. I am currently in the undergrounds of the National Research Center of Scientific Research in France, and we are working very hard on assessing items. But I wanted to be nonetheless with you. I have this to offer. It's a very simple argument. And it's about Plato. And Plato in the Republic, the passage is 456 AD. It talks about women in sport. It talks quite extensively of women in sport. And he says that it is vital that boys and girls are educated to the best possible extent, and that while they are being educated, they are also carefully trained in sports and music. So education, sports, and music. You should not have too much music and too little sport. You should not have too much sport and too little music. You should have these three. And the outcome is that women and young men can then take up the responsibility of guardians, the way Plato calls them, the Hüter des Verfassungs, to use a phrase that Carl Schmitt loved. But here, it's a point I'd like to make, and that if you consider the whole area of the Republic, the Republic in Greek, actually, it's not called the Republic, it's called Politeia, but it's in other places, Plato calls it Callipolis, the beautiful city. So you can imagine how the Republic looks like, the beautiful city. And you can imagine facilities, exactly. And you can imagine temples, schools. One thing you can't find, and this is a point that has been raised, you will never find a library in the Republic. Not at all. Impossible. Because there is no words about libraries in Plato. There are many words against reading books. This is not the case with Aristotle. Aristotle is the first to have had a library. We know that historically, because he's the one that sold the library. So the heirs of Aristotle, Theophrastus, sold the library of Aristotle to the king of Egypt, Ptolemaeus. So the library was actually transported from Athens to Alexandria, where it was the beginning of Alexandrian library. Aristotle had the library, we know for sure, because of one of his works, the Laws, which is a collection of laws and presupposes a well-working library. Plato didn't have anything of this, anything. So there is no library in the Republic. You can look for it, you'll never find it. So what is the implication? The implication is that women and boys are equal in this respect. It's not that women ought to be in disadvantage as regards to boys who are literate and are supposed to learn literature, books, and so why women don't. So we are completely equal, and this is a very interesting position, I think, because they have education. Education means mathematics. For mathematics, astronomy, calculating time, calculating space, that is what Plato had in mind. They have music, which means harmony, sense of beauty, and they have sport, which means a body that is perfectly functioning. But nobody has any other bookish form of instruction. And this brings me to a very interesting situation that happened in Japan in the 13th century, in which the boys were expected to have a formal education in Chinese. And so the boys in the Japanese royal imperial family and in the high highly educated classes learned Chinese. And while women did not learn any Chinese, they were not expected to. But they had their own creativity challenged into speaking Japanese, which is different from Chinese. So eventually, Murasaki Shikibu, who was the daughter of one of the emperors, eventually wrote this beautiful book, which is called Genji Monogatari, the Splendid Prince, which is the first, the beginnings of the Divina Commedia of the Japanese literature. And here's the argument back. There is no need of Chinese literature in the Republic. There is no need of books at all. Boys and girls are equal, and they will thrive, they will become guardians, as Plato says, without any bookish instruction. And if you look at Japan, you see that when this is a situation where the boys get the bookish instruction and girls do not, girls win, because the Japanese literature is the work of women. So this is what they had to offer on that. You read again Plato 456 AD and consider how come Plato evaluated the sport of boys and girls in the way he did. And I'm sorry I have to leave you. I have to go back to my committee. Thank you.